Tapas. Tapas, you there? Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Get the sheets for anyone in. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Ashtotarata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Ashtotarata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, just give me a second here. Still missing my iPod. Hopefully that will manifest eventually.
When
I didn't lose it. I put it in for repairs with Tyler, but it's in the works. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 7th day of August 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 6, Prescribed Duties for Mankind. Chapter 17, Mother Parvati curses Chitraketu. Text number 11. Shri Parvati Uvacha Ayam Kimaduna Loke Shasta Dandadaraha Prabhu Asmad Vidhanam Dushtanam Nirlajjanam Chaviprakrit Shri Parvatyuvacha Ayam Kimaduna Loke Shasta Dandadarak Prabhu Asman Vidhanang Dushtanam Nirlajjanang Chaviprakrit Shri Parvatyuvacha Ayam Kimaduna Loke Shasta Dandadarak Prabhu Asmad Vidhanang Dushtanam Nirlajjanang Chaviprakrit Shri Parvatyuvacha Ayam Kimaduna Loke Shasta Dandadarak Prabhu Asmad Vidhanang Dushtanam Nirlajjanang Chaviprakrit Shri Parvatyuvacha Ayam Kimaduna Loke Shasta Dandadarak Prabhu Asmad Vidhanang Dushtanam Nirlajjanang Chaviprakrit Shri Parvatyuvacha Ayam Kimaduna Loke Shasta Dandadarak Prabhu Asman Vidhanam Dushtanam Nirlajjanang Chaviprakrit Shri Parvatyuvacha Ayam Kimaduna Loke Shasta Dandadarak Prabhu Asman Vidhanam Dushtanam Nirlajjanam Chaviprakrit Shri Parvatyuvacha Ayam Kimaduna Loke Shasta Dandadarak Prabhu Asmad Vidhanam Dushtanam Nirlajjanam Chaviprakrit Shri Parvatyuvacha Ayam Kimaduna Loke Shasta Dandadarak Prabhu Asman Vidhanam Dushtanam Nirlajjanam Chaviprakrit. Ladies. Shri Parvatyuvacha Ayam Kimaduna Loke Shasta Dandadarak Prabhu Asman Vidhanam Dushtanam Nirlajjanam Chaviprakrit. Shri Parvati Uvacha The goddess Parvati said, I am this. Kim, whether. Aduna, now. Loke, in the world. Shasta, the supreme controller. Dandadaraha, the carrier of the rod of punishment. The rod of punishment. Prabhu, the master. Asmat Pidhanam, of persons like us. Dushtanam, criminals. Nirlajjanam, who have no shame. Cha, and. Viprakrit, the restrainer. Translation. The goddess Parvati said, Alas, has this upstart now received a post from which to punish shameless persons like us? Has he been appointed ruler, carrier of the rod of punishment? Is he now the only master of everything? No purport. Naveda dharmam kilapadmayone na brahmaputra brigunada dadyaha navai kumarak kapilo manushcha ye no nishedyant ativartinang hadam. Alas, Lord Brahma, who has taken his birth from the lotus flower, does not know the principles of religion, nor do the great saints like Bhrigu and Narada, nor the 4 Kumaras headed by Sanat Kumara. Manu and Kapila have also forgotten the religious principles. I suppose it to be because of this that they have not tried to stop Lord Shiva from behaving improperly. You get the logic here? She's invoking all of these supreme authorities. They didn't complain about Shiva. So what is this guy complaining about Shiva? You see? She's making a case here. There's no, and again, no purport. Esham anudhyaya padabja yugmam jagat gudam mangala mangalam swayam yak chatta bandhu paribhuya sureen prashasti dushtas tadayam hidandyaha. This Chitraketu is the lowest of Kshatriyas, for he has impudently overridden Brahma and the other demigods by insulting Lord Shiva, upon whose lotus feet they always meditate. Lord Shiva is personified religion and the spiritual master of the entire world, and therefore Chitraketu must be punished. Purport. All the members of the assembly were exalted Brahmins. This is the assembly who, when Parvati and Shiva were together, so he's talking about that assembly. All the members of the assembly were exalted Brahmins and self-realized souls, but they did not say anything about the conduct of Lord Shiva, who was embracing the goddess Parvati on his lap. Chitraketu nonetheless criticized Lord Shiva, and therefore the opinion of Parvati was that he should be punished. Nayam arhati vaikunta padamulo pasarpanam sambhavita matistabda sarubi paryapasitam. This person is puffed up because of his achievements, thinking, I am the best. He does not deserve to approach the shelter of Lord Vishnu's lotus feet, which are worshipped by all saintly persons, for he is impudent, thinking himself greatly important. Purport. If a devotee thinks that he is very much advanced in a devotional service, he is considered puffed up and unfit to sit beneath the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Again, this instruction by Lord Chaitanya is applicable. We can all chant together, those who know this important verse. Trinad api sunichena, taror api sahishnuna, amanina manadena, kirtaniyak sada harihi. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Unless one is humble and meek, one cannot qualify to sit at the lotus feet of the Lord. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshur unmilatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Shri Parampara. So we're seeing the pastime play out here, and Parvati is making a very convincing case that Chitraketu has overstepped his rightful position, and he's unjustly criticizing Lord Shiva for being indiscreet, let's say, in embracing his wife amongst all of these great sages and saints and munis and so forth. And she has a good case, obviously. Shiva is beyond reproach. Vaishnavanam yata shambhu. Of course, that's just the one line. It says, and I forget the rest of the sentence, just as the Ganges is the foremost of rivers, then similarly Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava. And the thing is, sometimes great Vaishnavas do things that you don't understand the significance of. Just like that Vangshidas Babaji, right? Isn't that, and Bhaktisiddhanta eventually told his disciples, don't go to him because you won't understand all the things that he's doing, and they seem like offenses, seems like he's violating this and so forth. But on that level, he's beyond reproach, you know, when you great devotees like that, and certainly Shiva is in that category. So all of this now, this has come up before, but we should always remember that this is Krishna's great plan to bring Chitraketu back quicker. Right? He's happily, you know, he's riding around in the airplane and doing things, and there was a little bit of, he was a little bit of covered over. I just compare it similarly to what happens with Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Here he is, you know, the critical moment when Krishna's desire to cleanse the world of so many demonic forces and reinstitute Dharma into the world in the person of Yudhishthira is about to happen. And Arjuna gets cold feet, you know. Well, how does that happen? You know, he's this great warrior who's fought so many battles. He's an eternal companion of Krishna. And it happens by Krishna's arrangement so that the Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. This is Krishna does things that we can't understand why it's going on. But we have to have faith that that this is ultimately part of his plan, and that works on an individual level also. Is that, you know, why did this happen to me? You know, I'm doing so much service, now I come down with this disease, and I can't do my service. Isn't Krishna in control? You know, yes, he's completely in control. But there's something that we need: the purification, and so these negative things happen. And that's one of the signs of advancement. This very important verse uttered by Lord Brahma, I think near the end of his prayers to Krishna in chapter 14 of the 10th canto. And that what had happened to Brahma himself is an illustration of it, right? He couldn't understand that this little boy Krishna was God, my father, Garbhodakshay Vishnu and all that. This didn't compute. Little boy standing with some fruit and yogurt in his hand, you know, and herding not the cows but the calves. So he's Brahma, so he didn't do anything harmful, but he hid away the calves and the boys, you know. But in the end, we know the story. I'm not going to go through it again. How Krishna just kept playing. He expanded, you know, to all the boys and calves and kept the leela going. He didn't want the mothers and the cows to be upset that where's my boy? Where's my calf? You know. So he became the calves, perfect replicas, and simultaneously he gave them all a chance to suckle him personally. You can imagine the intimate service, you know. So he does several things at one time. Similarly with Indra, right? I mean, suddenly, in this idyllic land of Vrindavan, there's this devastating storm. And, you know, just remember, there's big blocks of ice coming down along with the water. It's not just rain, it's devastation. And so what happens? Well, suddenly, you know, after their blissful worship of Govardhan Hill and going around and Krishna expanding, you know, it's just a wonderful pastime in bliss. Then this happens, you know, because Indra was offended, you know, like that. So they have no other recourse but to just take shelter of Krishna, and he performs a wonderful miracle. And along with doing that, he gives them a chance to associate with him for 7 days straight, no sleeping, nobody slept, you know, and. Because normally it's all partial, you know. He's with Mother Yashoda, she's preparing him, you know, and it's wonderful. But then he goes out into the forest and she's in separation all day, and the gopis are in separation. You know, so this is a special, along with humbling Indra, which was necessary, right? That's always necessary, it seems. He gave his association for 7 days straight, and everyone was in total bliss. So Krishna's Leela like that. If you study the Krishna book carefully, you'll see that Krishna is the great director, and he's also the great protagonist of the great play that's going on there in several senses. And he's always increasing the different varieties of emotions. He's kind of turning up the volume so that the emotions will be experienced even in a more intense way. You know, where he calls them out. You know, the gopis out with the flute, and finally the time, you know, we're going to dance with Krishna, we'll be with Krishna. And then he says, this is not proper. These adulterous affairs, you'll never go to heaven, you know. And there's so many dangers in this forest, you better leave. Go back home. Now you've seen me, you know, it's okay. Oh. So they're so disappointed, you know, they start scratching the ground with their toenails, and they're crying and everything. And they offer these wonderful prayers, you know, which are recorded in the Bhagavatam, showing their determination that you know, we're not leaving. You know, you called us out here, and what is all this? You know, so okay, let's have the rasa dance. And then they don't have it right away. They start walking, and you know, and there's all kinds of wonderful exchanges and everything. But then when he sees they're getting a little proud, boom, he disappears, right? Oh, and a whole other set of emotions come, and separation, and they're upset with him, like that. And after, you know, they wander around, imitate his pastimes in so much separation, he still doesn't come. Finally, the moon is setting, they can't see the moon, so they go to the bank of the river and start offering these incredible prayers. And also, you know, we should see for the long haul, these prayers are recorded, and then for his stories, everyone can sing these prayers now. In other words, for the Bhagavatam to manifest all of these. So that's another part of the Krishna's motive. And of course, just when they're the most desperate, you know, they call out at the end of these prayers. It's a short chapter, 19 verses, and it said, you know, where are you, where are you? He appears. So he's churning the emotions. So similar thing, he's a great conductor and organizer of all the pastime of his pure devotees, and Chitraketu is certainly one of those now. So Parvati's, you know, case is she's so clever here. And so she doesn't say, I'm offended. She says, well, I guess, you know, Rama doesn't know anymore, you know, and the Kumaras, they're ignorant. They're not chastising Shiva. They're still worshipping him. They must have made a mistake. No, it's just that this Chitraketu is such a nonsense, you know. So it's all part of Krishna's plan. And then so she curses him, and I mean, if we were cursed like that, become demons, we would probably, you know, crawl up in a fetal position and just lie on the ground or something, right? I mean, would we feel, well, that's cool, I'll just accept it. See how, so his advancement is shown by the fact that, okay, you know, what he'd already been through, longing for the child, getting the child is murdered, you know, and Narada Muni comes down and gives him some instruction. In 7 days, he prays so sincerely, and he gets the darshan of the Lord, offers these beautiful prayers. So he's already purified. But he's a little proud, you know, here, by Krishna's arrangement, so that he can more quickly return to Godhead. He wants, Prabhupada says, he wants to, you know, Vishnu wants to see him, you know. So this is and then, you know, this critical verse, where we should really meditate on it. It's a very nice purport. I wanted to read that also. And it's written by Vidyananda Maharaj, following the Acharyas, and, you know, following Prabhupada. It's beautiful. So, tattenu kampam susamikshemano. This is a very pertinent verse. Tattenu kampam susamikshemano bunjana eva nukatam vipakam ridvag vapubhi vedadandamaste jivetayo mukti badesa daya bak. My dear Lord, Brahma praying to little Krishna. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. And the purport here, first he quotes from Sridhar Swami. Srila Sridhar Swami, he's the original commentator on the Bhagavatam. He explains in his commentary that just as a legitimate son has to simply remain alive to gain inheritance from his father, one who simply remains alive in Krishna consciousness, following the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, automatically becomes eligible to receive the mercy of the personality of Godhead. In other words, he will be promoted to the kingdom of God. The word susamikshamana indicates that the devotee earnestly awaits the mercy of the Supreme Lord even while suffering the painful effects of previous sinful activities. Or he is suffering what seems to be a karmic reaction. But he's confident, oh, this is Krishna's arrangement to purify me. Even though it's painful, I'm going to accept it. Not that I'm going to think, what is this? I've been, attending Mangala. I get this disease, or I break my leg, What is going on? Isn't God the Supreme Personality? No, he has to understand that all of this is part of the purification process. That's the idea. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that the devotee who fully surrenders unto him no longer is liable to suffer the reaction of his previous karma. However, because in his mind the devotee may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishments that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. The purpose of the entire creation of God is to rectify the living entity's tendency to enjoy without the Lord. And therefore, the particular punishment given for a sinful activity is specifically designed to curtail the mentality that produced the activity. Although a devotee has surrendered to the Lord's devotional service until he is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness, he may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness of this world. The Lord therefore creates a particular situation to eradicate this remaining enjoying spirit. This unhappiness suffered by a sincere devotee is not technically a karmic reaction. It is rather the Lord's special mercy for inducing his devotee to completely let go of the material world and return home back to Godhead. A sincere devotee earnestly desires to go back to God, to the Lord's abode. Therefore, he willingly accepts the Lord's merciful punishment and continues offering respects and obeisances to the Lord with his heart, words, and body. Such a bona fide servant of the Lord, considering all hardship a small price to pay for gaining the personal association of the Lord, certainly becomes a legitimate son of God, as indicated here by the words Dayabhak. Just as one cannot approach the sun without becoming fire, one cannot approach the Lord, the Supreme Pure, without undergoing a rigid purificatory process, which may appear like suffering, but which is in fact a curative treatment administered by the personal hand of the Lord. And this is a point that Bhajan Rai Maharaj likes to make about that. Because you never know what will happen. You may come down with this disease, this may happen, whatever. But one has to, increase the intensity of one's prayer. That Krishna is really the Dina Bandhu. He's really the friend of the fallen, and continue praying ardently. And the perfect example there is in the last verse of the Shikshastika. Radharani is the ideal devotee, obviously, and yet she's also, saying that Krishna is perfectly free to do anything. He may embrace me, or he may crush me, trample me. He may not be present before me, which is the worst punishment for some time. And yet she feels all void in the previous verse and without Krishna. So what's this idea? Radharani is so great, but she's suffering? That doesn't make any sense. No, it makes sense in the higher sense, because the rest of the verse describes, he may do whatever he whatever he wants, but he's still the only Lord of my heart. This is why she's the emblem of all devotion. That Krishna may punish us, seem to be punishing us, when he's really purifying us. When we see that the difficulties as part of the purification. And then we can always remain enthusiastic in devotional service. Oh, Krishna cares about me enough to punish me. It's like a little child doesn't understand that, but the mother is chastising him because she's, don't run in the street. I told you 1,000,000 times. What's the matter with you? Bam, hit him in the backside. It seems like, what is this cruelty? Someone walking down the street, what is she, this woman is doing child abuse, only call the police. No, she's doing it out of love, to instill in the child the reluctance to walk in the street with a little brain, you know, because I'll get another hit on the back. And now to save his life, the car will be coming, you know, it's all out of love. So Krishna, similarly, Krishna is bringing us along in this process of devotional service. It's not easy. We've spent so many millions of years in this world. We have so many tendencies, so many desires that we've planted in there, you know, false starts, so many different things. So we need the strictness as well as, you know, the nectar. The nectar is the thing is, if you continue practicing staunchly your regulars and trying to rectify some mistake that you have, then everything becomes sweeter. That's how Krishna reciprocates. The holy name becomes sweeter. The service, you know, the association, everything. That's really what you're looking for, because that sweetness, that if you study this, the seminal verse of Rupa Goswami, that the ladder from faith to love, from Shraddha to Prema, Adho tatak sadhu sangot, Adho Shraddha. First comes faith. Faith, in this case, is not the pure faith that Lord Chaitanya talks about in his instructions to Sanatan. But Prabhupada describes it, respect, interest, preliminary interest, enough to bring you into the sadhu sangha, which is the key, the association of devotees. Now, as I continually point out, in this age of media everywhere, you've got the whole world in your pocket, right, with your cell phone. So you're making a decision, you know, at all hours of the day, who to associate with, what to associate with. So it's a double-edged sword. You can be reading the Srimad Bhagavatam or the Chaitanya Charitamrita on your phone, or you can be doing other unmentionable things on the phone. That's the choice that we have. We always have this choice. So the Sangha can come in all forms. Ideally, personal Sangha, just like we had wonderful festival yesterday. So many devotees, kirtan, so many old friends you meet, you know, you share, you know, how you're doing, what's going on, you know, years. So it's irreplaceable. That is the gold standard, you know, association. But books are so important. You know, when books became available, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, you know, the technology was there, amassed. This is the way we can reach out to thousands and millions of people. And Prabhupada picked up on that, and we know that's how the movement has really spread to all of these books, different languages, and devotees giving the books, becoming purified by that activity and giving their own sangha. You know, it works. So. That is Krishna's reciprocation from within the heart. When you accept some punishment or some difficulty, and you continue with your enthusiastic devotional service, then you feel your whole consciousness changes and everything becomes sweeter. Just to take Charanamrita, if you do it with knowledge, you know what the great benefit of it is. You know, what is that? There's a verse about that, how one is a resident of hell if he thinks the Charanamrita, the water because you know, basically what's Charanamrita means that it's the water and other substances that have bathed the lotus feet of the Lord. And you know, it can also be expanded, the lotus feet of the devotees, but what we're taking is the deities. And if you do it with awareness, oh, this is, you know, so purifying, it's for millions of years I've been waiting, you know, to take this Charanamrita. But if you don't appreciate it, you know, there's this verse about the residents of hell. You know, someone is a resident of hell. One is it contains Charanamrita. Arche Vishnu Shiladir Gudushanadapadir Vaishnave Jati Buddhir. Vishnu Ava Vaishnavanam Kalimalamatadam Padatirtem Ambu Buddhi. Shri Vishnu Namni Mantre Sakala Kalashahe Shabda Samanya Buddhir. Vishwam Sarveshwareshe Taditata Samadir Yasyava Narakisa. The word Naraka means a resident of hell. And if you meet any of these qualifications, you think that the worshipable Archamurti of the Lord is just a stone. You think that the Guru is an ordinary man or woman. You know, the Guru is an ordinary person. And the Vaishnav should be understood from where he takes birth. Jati Buddhir. You know, just like so many stories, people who say, you can't make these mlechas and yavanas into Brahmins, that's a great violation. That person who says that isn't already dwelling in hell. Prabhupada is following the Shastra. The purification is so powerful, Bhakti Yoga, the holy name, that even Jagai Madhai and his followers, all of us, can become purified. You know? So that's another thing. And then that the holy name is just an ordinary sound, and that Vishnu is just another deity, and all of these things. In other words, that's a hellish mentality. So, but to appreciate, you know, the value of all these things and the association of devotees, and you know, that's a great blessing. We should always remember that, you know, just to be able to walk into this temple and offer your obeisances, that is a tremendous blessing of Krishna. He's inspiring you to do that and bringing you along in devotional service. Everything is such a gift when you see it that way. The painters, sometimes I look at these paintings, what a service they performed. Year after year you can be enlivened. Prabhupada would see these, and he would actually be, you know, windows to the spiritual world, he called them. Windows to the spiritual world. You know, such a blessing. So that appreciation comes, one of the ways also is by taking whatever difficulties arise in devotional service, welcoming them as impetuses for further surrender, as a challenge, and accepting it, and not getting the crazy mentality that, well, doesn't the process work? I mean, I've been chanting 16 rounds now for 6 weeks. Why did I just sprain my ankle? You know, or whatever. It's crazy. But that's the mad mind trying to give you an excuse to leave and give up the process. And I'm telling you, we've had devotees come here, Balaram can see, you know, and somehow they had got some bad association, and whoa, you don't even want to associate with them anymore. You know, doubts, and it's not even doubts anymore. It becomes conviction that you guys are crazy. You know, you're accepting it. No, that's punishment for some grievous offense, and that's what happens. So all the verses I read, especially this last one, basically to see everything as the mercy of the Lord, both the positive and negative things. The negative things are challenges, you know, to make you more purified, and the positive things are Krishna's reciprocation for all your efforts in devotional service. And that way, where do you ever have a negative attitude toward Krishna? You see both sides. You welcome the difficulties, and of course you welcome the nectar that flows. And you understand that the two are related. But you're not flinching, what Prabhupada call unflinching devotion. But you're not going to flinch when everything is going fine. You know, sadhana is there, the kirtan is there, everything fine. But you're going to flinch when there's some difficulty. But if you welcome the difficulties, you know, by some of these stories here that, oh, this is Krishna's purifying me, I'm going to accept it, you know, then that's what's going on. So in this, what we're reading now, it's always good to remember, and as I've been stressing, that this is all in Krishna's plan. Just like the Bhagavad Gita, with Arjuna being covered so that the Gita could be spoken, and it happens, you know, in many cases. Chitraketu needs a little, you know, if he didn't do this, I mean, he could be riding around in that airplane for many more years, you know. Not, you know, he's not a demon, he's chanting, but Vishnu wanted him back, Krishna wanted him back quicker. So all of this arrangement is there. And you get this very, I don't want to say entertaining, but very interesting little argument of Parvati, you know, which is conclusive. Well, if Shiva is such a nonsense, then why didn't Brahma say it? So this Chitraketu is saying, oh, Brahma doesn't know what he's doing, and neither does the four Kumaras or Narada. So in other words, she's piling on argument. So she curses him. And then he says, all right, I'm cursed, you know. He doesn't say, oh, no, you know, he doesn't say it like that. He continues on. And we've already read the conclusion before. This is a big flashback. You know, this is that Vitrasura, this exceptional personality. So that's the lesson I'm getting from that. And you see Prabhupada, he emphasizes this essential verse. You know, we're meant to pick it around our neck, the Trinadapi Sunichena, meaning that's supposed to be a constant mood that we have. You know, forgive me, I'll recite my little poem. You know, more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. Now, there's an editing pastime involved with this verse, which I'd like to share with you because it's important to understand the full meaning here. as I was back in the 90s, mid-90s, when I was asked, and I did, review the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I came to this verse, which is originally quoted in the Shikshastika, of course, and it's quoted throughout the books. And in the Shikshastika, as given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, is Trina Api Sunichena, Todor Iva Sahishnuna, Amanina Manadena. Now, Iva and Api are not exactly the same. Api, as we learned in the first line, means more. You know, Trina Api Sunichena means more humble than a blade of grass. It's quite a challenge since a blade of grass is in a very humble position. But that's the whole point of this verse. And Eva means like. So a tree is like the emblem of tolerance, right? You know, he stands there in the winter, in the summer, he gets chopped down, doesn't make any, comment, and he gives his fruit, So he's the emblem of tolerance and also of generosity. But that's not the point. The idea is that the tree is, you can't be more tolerant than a tree, basically. So what I'm getting at is that there was a discrepancy. Prabhupada would always chant Trinadapi Sunichana Todorapi Seshnuna. And here it says Eva, so I'll have to make a decision because it's quoted elsewhere in the book, as Prabhupada dictated it, as Api. You can't have two versions in the same book. That's going to be confusing to devotees. So assuming that the text of the CC was, what Krishnadas Kaviraj wrote and everything, I said, okay, so we make them all Eva. And to this day, a lot of devotees, having read the revised edition, they do the Eva. That the first, before I re-revised it. And what happened was, and I'm sorry to break this news to you, but all the transcribers and the copiers who produced from the Gaudiya Math edition, because that's the one that Prabhupada used, and that's the one that the editors used when they checked, they sometimes made a mistake or made a little, spontaneous correction. I thought it was, no. I checked with by this time, I think it was Gopi Puranadana Prabhu. Yeah, I would take you to Gopi. And how did this Shikshastra come about? What's the source? We know Lord Chaitanya wrote it, but he didn't write it as an ashtaka. He wrote these verses at different times. And they were collected as an ashtaka, apparently, and I had to confirm this again by Krishnadas Kaviraj. And how can a good cue for that, or a clue to that, is that there's no ninth verse. There's no palashruti, whereas you find in many ashtakas, written as ashtakas, there's what you get by studying this ashtaka and chanting it. Anyway, so I did some research with my authorities, and they said, no, in the Pajavali and so many other versions of it, it's Api. And that was good news, because that's how Prabhupada always chanted it. So I said, okay, we'll turn it to that way. And that means more, which is like more tolerant than a tree. Wow, what a standard, But that's what he said. This is an extreme verse. So that's the idea, is that more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. To think all praise belongs to others, none belongs to me. This may be the hardest of the qualification. Such qualities attract the Lord to bless one with the power to chant His name incessantly until the final hour. That's a little extrapolation, but what he's saying there, one can then chant the holy name constantly, which is not easy, but it's supposed to be going on, all the time. So, you can see it's just the opposite of like the formula for success in this material world, You want to be successful on Wall Street, you got to be ruthless, You got to buy this, sell that, learn this, do that, and cheat this guy, whatever. It's just the opposite. There's no question of being humble. Be humble, you'll get stepped all over, right? You'll never be successful. So people who want to make a lot of money, they wheeling and dealing and so forth, there's always some cheating going on. So that's just the opposite of the mood of the devotee. The devotee is always ready to glorify others. That's part of the humility, recognizing I have no quality. And you see it in the writings of Krishnadas Kaviraj, supreme devotee, writing there in his old age, sacrificing, the right to CC, incredible. But he says, I'm the most sinful of this, and they believe it. Anyone who utters my name loses all piety. You know, like that. And you see it in the songs of Narottam and all. They're always, you know, like that. Prahlad Maharaj, Evam janam nam patitam. You know, I've fallen amongst the demons now, and you know, how could I? Of course, he's also glorifying his guru Narada Muni. But when he's asked for, he's offered a benediction by Nrsingadev. He actually has two requests. One is not as famous. The first request is that please deliver my father, you know, who is so sinful, so vicious, ready to kill his own child like that, you know, and take over the universe, become so powerful. His very name explains it. Hiranya and Kashipu. Desiring gold and a soft bedding. And Prabhupada adds the obvious bed companion. You know, sex and money. That's the demons. And to do that, he meditated, you know, he became so austere and inconceivable. And he was actually in charge of the whole universe. Even the demigods were all bowing down to him. Not even Narada Muni confessed. They were terrified of him. Everyone except Shiva and Vishnu and Brahma, you know. So here's Prahlad's father, and he tortured him so it's hard to even think of it. How, you know, he wanted to kill him, threw him into a boiling vat of oil, and tried to crush him in the elephants and poison him, throw off a cliff and cut him to pieces. But he couldn't. You know, he couldn't. That scared him. That he had that kind of power of defense. Who's protecting you? Finally, at the end, he said, "Oh, the same one who's giving you intelligence, the Supreme Lord." Yeah, you always say the Supreme Lord. Where is your Supreme Lord? I don't see him. Is he in this pillar? Yes, Father, he's in the pillar also. Yeah, right. Boom. And out comes the Nrsingadev. It tears him to pieces. So here's the Nrsingadev, and Prahlad is offering these prayers. And finally, at the end of the prayer, he said, "Okay, whatever you want, you can have." And Prahlad complains, "I'm not a businessman, a vanik. I'm not praying to you and worshiping you so that I'll get some material benefit." So, but he understood that as a service, he should accept the offer from the Nrsingadev for some blessing. So the first thing he says, "Please deliver my father," you know. So he said, "Don't worry, you know, so many generations back and so many generations forward, they'll be delivered." And that's why Bali Maharaj was a great devotee, and even Banasura, he got clipped, you know. He lost 996 arms that Shiva had given him, but he wasn't killed by Krishna. And anyway, so because he was a descendant of Prahlad. So what does Prahlad ask for? He said, "But if you do want to give me something, then deliver my father." And then there's another one that's not so famous, but it's reflected in his other prayers, and that is, Kamam Bhavarsha, no, that's something else. Yadi dasi me kaman, barangdan baradarshaba. Forget the Sanskrit, but he says, "In my heart, if you really want to give me a good benediction, or best giver of the benedictions, then what I request is that in my heart there won't arise any material desire. They will never take root, you know." This is what Prahlad is saying. He's already Prahlad Maharaj. There's no question of any material desire. But he's saying, he's pretending, you know, he's feeling as if, "Oh, I'm vulnerable, I can fall back into the demonic," you know. So that's reflected in his wonderful prayer that Prabhupada says every devotee should chant if he wants to be free of material desires. 5th canto, 19th chapter, near the beginning. I forget I can give it to you. But I remember I worked on it. And it's not actually a verse, but it's very poetic. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namastejas Tejase Avadavi Babavadhanakavaddangstakar Sayan Randaya Randayatamo Grasa Grasa Om Svaha Abhiyam Abhiyam Apani Bhuhista Om Kshram. Some of you read the purport already. At the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, every devotee who wants to be free of material desires should learn this prayer. So I'm working on it in manuscript. This is one of the ones I edited. I immediately memorized it from the manuscript. So what does he say? First is, he says, clean. I think he says, Om Reem Shraum. No, that comes at the end. I'm sorry. Om Namo Bhagavate. I offer my obeisance to Narasimhaya. Namas Tejas Tejase. I offer my obeisance to you, the most powerful of the powerful. Avadavi Bhava. Please be manifest. Please, all of this repetition is evidence of high emotion, you know, and very great intensity. Please be manifest. Please be manifest in my heart. And with your thunderbolt-like teeth and your thunderbolt-like fangs, rip apart the very strong material desires in my heart. This is Prahlad playing. praying. He doesn't have any material desires, but he's feeling like that. And he's giving us a wonderful prayer. Vajranaka Vajradangstra Karma Shayan Randaya Randaya. Tear him apart. Randaya Tamo Grasa Grasa, and dissipate, in this way dissipate all the darkness in my heart. Om Swaha, I offer my oblations to you. And then you utters this, the seed syllable for worshipping the Shringadev. Shraum. Shraum is a word that illustrates the tearing apart of the chest of Hiranyakashipu. So there he is again, taking the humble position. I have all these material desires. Please save me. So this is how we should feel. Is that the only way I can be safe is to take a humble and always pray. Just like Prabhupada, he was praying ardently in front of the deities, and no one, what are you praying for, Srila Prabhupada? Oh, I'm praying that I won't fall down. And they said, Prabhupada, you're a pure devotee, you can never fall down. That's because I'm always praying. In other words, chanting Hare Krishna, we should really feel, oh Krishna, please pick me up from my fallen condition, place me at your lotus feet, let me have service to you. And if you actually have a feeling like that, then you'll always be safe. So that's the paradox of bhakti, is that the greatest bhaktas feel themselves, they're not bhaktas, but that's one of the qualities of being a great bhakta, is not to be proud of whatever advance you make and always seeing others as greater devotees and praying like anything and always being eager to hear and being purified. Hear, chant, and serve in other ways. So I'll leave it at that. If there's any comments or questions, we can entertain them now. It's a very wonderful part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, as they all are. Okay.